Leland Brooks, aged 67, was a retired architect from New York City. He had spent his entire life in New York City, commuting daily amidst the towering Manhattan skyscrapers from dawn till at night, accompanied by blueprints and models. This was the sum of his existence at the New York City architecture firm. He was highly praised for his unique design philosophy, rising to the position of senior associate with a quite generous salary to outsiders. Leland Brooks's life was enviable, but deep down he always felt a profound and unfillable penis. Is this truly the life I want? A very evening, gazing at the dazzling lights of the NYC nightscape from his window, Leland Brooks would ask himself this question from a young age. Leland Brooks's true interest was in traveling's world and experiencing different cultures. In his youth, he participated in a short-term exchange program, visiting several countries in Southeast Asia, where the natural scenery and local customs deeply captivated him. He was particularly fascinated by the traditional village life on the island off Java, Indonesia. One day, "I must live there for a while." His dream continued to grow in his heart. Finally, at the age of 67, he made a bold decision. He sold most of his belongings, took his lifelong savings, and boarded a flight to Indonesia. Those around him advised him against being impulsive, but he had already made up his mind to pursue his Indonesian pastoral dream. Life is short, live it to the fullest. Leland Brooks first arrived in Jakarta, the capital of Indonesia, and began learning Indonesian and understanding the local culture. But his real destination was Kalabiru village in central Java. During his travels, he heard rumors about the existence of villages in certain remote areas of Indonesia inhabited only by women. Men went to Thessaly for work and never came back. Do places like that really exist? Question lingered in his mind. Eventually, Leland Brooks found a locale guide in Jakarta, and with the guide's lead, he headed towards the central region of Java. Such villages exist, but they are very remote and the roads are difficult also. The people there are very wary of outsiders. The guide's warning didn't deter Leland Brooks. Instead, it further piqued his curiosity. After buying a motorcycle in Jakarta, he rode alone along the rugged mountain paths, heading towards that remote small village. The guide only accompanied him for a section of the journey. Leland Brooks had to complete the rest alone. From here, the road is very difficult. I'm not familiar with the road ahead either. After saying goodbye to the guide, Leland Brooks rode his motorcycle, climbing the narrow mountain path. A heavy rainstorm had fallen a few days prior, making the road muddy and the motorcycle's tires constantly slipping. Although the journey was difficult, intense curiosity and the desire for a new life drove him forward. Suddenly, the sky turned dark and a torrential rain poured down with the road barely visible. Leland Brooks's motorcycle skidded and he nearly plunged off a cliff. He managed to grab onto a tree by the roadside, saving his life, but the motorcycle tumbled into the valley. What do I do now? Leland Brooks was drenched. Looking around, he could see nothing but trees and mist. He felt his strength rapidly draining away and began to lose consciousness. Is anyone there? Help! His final cry showed in the valley. He didn't know how much time had passed, but Leland Brooks was awakened by the warm sound of a bonfire. He lay in a simple bamboo hut, and a young Indonesian woman, appearing to be in her 20s, named Tia, sat beside him. "You're awake. That's wonderful." The woman wore the unique traditional ladder of Kalabiru village and spoke to him in Indonesian. Leland Brooks was groggy and asked where he was. "Where is this? Did you save me?" The woman smiled and replied, "This is Kalabiru village. The village hunters found you on the mountain. You were close to dying." Leland Brooks tried to get up, but felt pain all over and had to lie down again. The woman handed him a cup of tea brewed from herbs. "Drink this, you'll feel a bit better." "I'm Tia, the village herbalist." Leland Brooks took a sip of the tea and then introduced himself. "My name is Leland Brooks. I am from the United States. Thank you very much for saving me." Tia nodded. "American thoughts. Interesting. Few outsiders come to our village, especially men." Leland Brooks looked puzzled, and Tia continued to explain. "There are almost only women in your village, very few men." Leland Brooks's eyes widened. "This way. Exactly. The village he was looking for, really. How did this happen, Tia?" "Sieta, a long time ago, to make a living, the men from the village went to the cities for work. Then, few of them ever returned. Some even started new families in the cities and completely abandoned the village. Now only a few elderly people and young children are left in our villages. His story shocked Leland Brooks. The rumors he had heard were truth. Next day, Leland Brooks's physical condition improved, and he was able to get out of bed and walk around. Tia took him on a tour of the village. The scenery was breathtaking. This small village was nestled in a valley in central Java, consisting of about 50 simple bamboo huts, and the residents were almost all women, although children and the elderly could also be seen there. We're almost annoying men. There isn't a single man in our village between the ages of 18 and 45, so many young women are unable to marry. Tia's explanation further shocked Leland Brooks. As he walked through the village, many women looked at him with curious eyes. Some shilly greeted him, while others whispered and giggled. It had been almost 10 years since the last outsider, especially a young man, had visited this village. Arriving at the village, the North village chief, a woman in her 60s named Ibu, welcomed Leland Brooks. She was the oldest person in the village and responsible for all major village affairs. "Welcome to Calibu Village, old American gentleman. Tia has told me about your situation. How are you feeling?" Leland Brooks bowed respectfully and replied, "Much better. Thank you very much for saving me." Ibu smiled and said, "Although our village is poor, we value guests greatly, especially helping someone in danger like you is our responsibility." Leland Brooks visited every corner of the village and was gradually attracted by the local way of life. The women Hera farmed the land, wove handicrafts, and gathered medicinal herbs, living a self-sufficient life. But their lives didn't seem easy. Farming or carrying heavy objects is very difficult for women. These were originally things that men should do, Tia explained to Leland Brooks. That evening, Leland Brooks had dinner with the villagers. During the communal meal, he introduced himself as a retired architect from the United States and explained why he had come to Indonesia. "I traveled to seek a new life, and I'm very interested in Indonesian traditional culture." The villagers were interested in his story and asked him many questions. "We heard the United States is a very developed country. We've seen American TV shows and heard that American people are very friendly," a young woman said. Leland Brooks smiled and told them more stories about the United States. The villagers were deeply captivated by his stories, and the dinner ended in a pleasant atmosphere. The next day, Leland Brooks' condition improved, and he began helping the villagers with what he could. He first inspected the village's irrigation system. The village had a small canal, but it was old and in disrepair, making the water supply unstable. "Perhaps I can fix it. I learned some basic civil engineering knowledge before." Leland Brooks spent several days repairing the canal, finally restoring the irrigation for the entire village. Villagers were amazed by his abilities, and Leland Brooks gradually became an important member of the village. "Mr. Brooks, you are truly amazing. You helped us so much," Tia said with a grateful tone. Leland Brooks smiled shilly. "It was nothing. I just did what I could while living in the village." Leland Brooks developed a strong interest in handicrafts. The women of the village were skilled at making beautiful boutique and woven goods, but they struggled with no sales channels, making life very difficult. Such exquisite works, if they could be sold, it would definitely improve everyone's lives. Leland Brooks remembered the connections he had built in New York City and began thinking about how to help them. "I can teach you how to sell online land." Brooks began teaching the villagers computer skills and online marketing techniques. Using his laptop, he helped them set up a simple website and uploaded photos of the handicrafts online. Then he promoted them through social media. "This is truly magical. Our things can actually be sold all over through." The women were excited by Leland Brooks's idea, and more orders spowered in. Leland Brooks suggested they form a cooperative and distribute all profits fairly. "Let's form a Calibiru cooperative together. Everyone works together and prospers together." Ibu listened to Leland Brooks's suggestion and convened a village meeting. All the women in the village gathered to discuss Leland Brooks's proposal. After some discussion, most of the women agreed to form the cooperative. "Mr. Brooks, your arrival is truly a gift from heaven. We have decided to accept your proposal. Let's work together." Boo officially announced the decision, and the entire village cheered with joy. Several months after the cooperative was established, the village atmosphere was completely refreshed the women worked harder, and their income gradually increased. Leland Brooks also taught them knowledge about quality, management, design improvement, and marketing, which the women quickly learned. Mr. Brooks, thanks to you, our village has undergone such a huge change. We are truly grateful. Tia said to Leland Brooks one evening. They sat by the small river near the village, looking up at the starry sky. No, Tia, this is the result of everyone's collective effort. I just helped a little. Land Brooks replied humbly. Tia was silent for a moment, then carefully said, Mr. Brooks, our village has a big problem. Leland Brooks looked at Tia with a puzzled expression. What problem? Tia sighed and said, our village is facing the crisis of disappearing because there are no young men. The village population is gradually decreasing, especially women our age. Many are unable to marry and have children. Then did Leland Brooks understand the true problem of the village. Besides economic difficulties, there was the even more severe problem of population. Declan Esso, the villagers were so warm to me. Tia nodded chilly. Many women are interested in you, but according to our tradition, it's hard to say directly. Leland Brooks felt a bit flustered. Boot also understood the villagers' plight. I don't know what to do. Tia cautiously took Leland Brooks's hand. I am not forcing you to do anything. I just hope you can understand our village's situation, if you are also willing. That night, Leland Brooks stayed awake all night. He kept thinking about Tia's words and deeply pondered the future of the village. He recalled the reason he left New York City again. What is the life I truly want? When he woke up the next morning, Leland Brooks felt more certain than ever before. This was the meaningful life he had been searching for. He wanted to help villagers, form new families with them, and contribute to the village's revival. Next morning, Leland Brooks visited Ibu Chief Ibu. I want to understand more about the village's situation. Ibu invited him into her home and brewed him some Javanese coffee. Our village used to have over 200 people, but now there are fewer than 100 left, most of whom are women. The elderly and children there are about 30+ women off marriageable age, but they cannot find suitable partners, so they cannot have a children. Leland Brooks was shocked by these numbers. Will the village disappear? Ibu nodded. Our Kalibiru villagers are somewhat reluctant to marry outsiders, but you are different. You have helped our village, and everyone trusts you. Moreover, you are a kind person. Brooks fell into deep thought. He felt that he was someone this village really needed, and at the same time, he felt that living here was very meaningful to him. What can I do for you, Ibu's eyes sparkled. Do you really think so? Leland Brooks answered seriously. I am not entirely certain yet, but I want to help this village, and I also want to start a new life here. Ibu excitedly clasped Hishin. Tonight, I will hold a village meeting and we will discuss it thoroughly. There thought evening in the village square, a grand village meeting was held. Almost all the villagers attended, and Leland Brooks also sat among them. Ipu introduced the current situation of the village and the contributions Leland Brooks had made to it. Mr. Brooks has given our village great help now. He also wants to help us solve the biggest problem facing the village, which is the problem of population decline. Murmurs of surprise and anticipation passed through the villagers. Leland Brooks nervously stood up. I have learned a lot from your village and have been deeply moved by everyone's kindness. He went to stay here, help everyone, and I want to become a part of your village and contribute my strength to solving the population problem. After Leland Brooks finished speaking, whispering broke out among the villagers. Some couldn't hide their joy, while others looked puzzled. In what way do all intend to help us? A woman cautiously asked. Leland Brooks's face flushed red as he answered, I understand that there are many unmarried women in the village. If you are willing, I want to form families with you. Instantly, the entire village fell silent. Then Ibu stepped forward. Mr. Brooks, what exactly do you mean? Leland Brooks took a deep breath and replied, I want to marry multiple women, have children, and together contribute to the village's development. Of course, this must only happen with everyone's consent, and I will do my utmost to bear all responsibilities. Villagers' expressions were a mixture of surprise and anticipation. Some elders looked worried, but most young women looked at Leland Brooks with hopeful eyes. Ibu spoke again. This is a very important decision, and everyone needs to consider it fully. Please think about it yourselves. Until tomorrow, Anthan, we will gather again to make a decision. The meeting ended just like that. And Leland. Brooks returned to his dwelling deep in thought. His proposal was not made on impulse over the past few months. He had lived in this village deeply attracted by the warmth and communal spirit. Here, unlike the fast-paced and emotionally indifferent life in New York City, here, everyone helped each other and lived together, which deeply touched his heart. I really want this life. After a sleepless night of reflection, when Leland Brooks woke up in the morning, he was more certain than ever before. This was the meaningful life he had been searching for. He wanted to help the villagers form new families, with Amand contribute to the village's revival. The next evening, the villagers Gatharadag and more people attended. This time, and the atmosphere was more serious than Thuday before Chief Ibu presided over the meeting yesterday. Everyone fully considered Mr. Leland Brooks's proposal. Now it is time for us to make a decision first. Let's hear the opinions of the women of marriageable age free. One after another, young women stood up and expressed their thoughts. Most said they weren't willing to accept Leland Brooks's proposal, but some still held a cautious attitude. I trust Mr. Brooks. He has done so much for our village, and I also want to form a family with him, said a young woman in her 20s named Annie. She was an excellent boutique. Artisoni also agree with this proposal. Our village needs future generations, and if you can be with Mr. Brooks, our village can be full of vitality again, added Susie, a woman in her early 30s. She was a herbal doctor and worked with Tia, responsible for the village's medical care, but not all women were in favor of the proposal. Don't feel ready yet. I need some more time, said Melissa, a woman in her early 20s. She was one of the youngest women in the village. After collecting the opinions of all the women, out of 35 eligible women, a total of 25 women expressed their willingness to accept Leland Brooks's proposal. The remaining 10 women said they needed more time to consider or were not ready yet. Ibu summarized all the women's opinions. Anthon she walked up to. Ouch. Leland Brooks, Mr. Brooks, did you hear? 25 women want to form families with you. This is a huge responsibility. Are you truly certain, Leland? Brooks nodded with a firm gaze. Yes, I am very certain. I am willing to do my best to respect every woman and contribute my strength to the village's development. Abu was silent for a moment, then said, in our traditional culture, something like this has never happened. However, our current situation is very special. It concerns the survival of our village. I will convene a meeting of the elders and make the final decision. The next day, the village elders gathered for a long meeting. They needed to consider Leland Brooks's proposal, the village's current situation, and the village's traditional culture to make the final decision. After a morning of discussion, Boo announced the elders' final decision to the villagers. We have decided to accept Mr. Leland Brooks's proposal. However, we have several conditions. First, all unions must be based on voluntariness. Second, Mr. Leland Brooks must respect and learn our culture and traditions. Third, all children must be raised jointly by the village, and Mr. Leland Brooks must act as the father to all children and fulfill his responsibility. Brooks solemnly accepted all the conditions and made a promise before the villagers. I will be a part of the village, fulfill all my responsibilities, everyone's culture and traditions, and cherish every woman and child. Let us work together to create a better future for our village. After he finished speaking, the entire village erupted in cheers. They finally saw hope. The village weddings were conducted according to local traditional customs. Leland Brooks wore local traditional clothing and held weddings with the 25 women, one after another. Each wedding lasted for 3 days, and the entire village was immersed in a festive atmosphere. Our village hasn't been this lively in a long time, Ibu said with tears of excitement. The elderly in the village also shed tears of joy in their eyes. They saw the future of the village. After the weddings, Leland Brooks officially became a member of the village as the leader of the cooperative. He led the village towards prosperity, while also forming new families together. With his 25 wives initially, everything felt strange and difficult to him. Maintaining marital relationships with 25 women, overcoming cultural differences, and handling the village's daily affairs were not easy tasks. But as time went on, Leland Brooks gradually adapted to village life, and the bonds with the villagers grew deeper. It was really difficult at first, but now I truly feel that this is my home, Leland. Brooks said to Tia. Tia was his first wife and his most trusted companion. A few months later, one piece of good news after another arrived in the village first. Annie announced her pregnancy, followed by Susie and other women, also bringing happy news. Of pregnancy, the entire village was on Sagan, immersed in an atmosphere of joy. Our village will have new babies. Sunet's practically a miracle. The women were ecstatic and congratulated each other. Leland Brooks was also incredibly excited about the fact that he was about to become a father. I'm really going to be a dad, Andoff. Many children, Leland Brooks murmured in disbelief. Tia held his hand and smiled, saying, "I will be a good dad. We will raise these children together." As time went on, Leland Brooks's role became increasingly important. He stabilized the village's economy through the cooperative and also his wholehearted likert for his pregnant wives. He improved the village's medical conditions and invited doctors from the city to ensure that all women could give birth healthily. Mr. Brooks, thanks to you, our village has undergone a tremendous change. We are truly grateful, said Annie, who was 8 months pregnant. Herbley was already very large, and her face was beaming with a happy smile. No, Annie, this is the result of our collective effort. I just did my small part, Leland. Brooks replied humbly. Booth's heart was filled with pride. He felt that he was living a meaningful life in a place where he was truly needed. Finally, the day of the first child's birth arrived. Annie began labor, and the entire village was tense and expectant. Doctor invited from the city, and the village's traditional midwife helped her deliver, and Leland Brooks held a nation. Tightly, keep going, Annie. We'll see our child soon. After a long labor, a healthy baby boy was finally born. The child's cry echoed through the bamboo hut, and everyone shed tears of joy. Finally, a boy is born in your village. It's truly a miracle. The villagers cheered with excitement, and Leland Brooks was too moved to speak. He carefully held the child, feeling new hope emanating from this little life. What name shall we give the child? Annie asked. Leland Brooks thought for a moment, then replied, I want a name that signifies hope. How do you say hope in Indonesian? It's called Harapan, meaning hope and new life, Annie, replied. Leland Brooks smiled and nodded. Harapan, what a wonderful name, our first son. Harapan. After Annie gave birth, the other women also began to deliver in succession. In less than a month, Susie gave birth to a daughter, followed by the other women also giving birth to their children. The village was filled with the cries of newborns, more vibrant than ever before. Now our village has a future. This is amazing, Ibu said with tears of excitement. She could finally witness the children of the village grow up healthy and happy with her own eyes. As a father and the village leader, Leland Brooks became even busier. He loved every child equally and did his utmost to provide every child with the care and love they needed at the same time. He further developed the village's economy through the cooperative, working hard to create a better growth environment for their children. We need to build a school for the children now. We can't let them start bed in Leland. Brooks proposed at the village meeting, which was unanimously approved to be everyone. They used the cooperative's profits to build a small school in the village and hired teachers from the city. They also improved the village's medical conditions, creating a healthy environment for the children to grow up in. A year later, a total of 23 newborns were born in the village. 13 were boys and 10 were girls, and all were growing up healthy and happy. Leland Brooks was now the father of 23 children, and his life had undergone a revolutionary change. Sometimes I feel like my life in New York City was like a dream. I feel that my current life is the real one, Leland Brooks said to Tia. They watched the children playing in the village square together. You're coming to our village. It was destiny. Without you, perhaps our village would no longer exist. Tia tightly held Leland Brooks's hand. Leland Brooks smiled at her. If I hadn't met you all, I would never have found true happiness either. It seems we are each other's salvation. Several more years passed, and Caliber Village became one of the most prosperous villages on Java Island. Leland Brooks's eldest son, Harapan Wasno, in middle school, and the other children were also growing up healthy and happy on their respective paths. Some of them chose to study in the city, but more chose to return to the village to help the cooperative or start new businesses. Dad, I want to become a doctor and help the people in the village, said Leland Brooks's third daughter, Dway. She was now 17 and very interested in medicine aesthetics. A great idea. Dway, I believe you will become an excellent doctor, Leland Brooks said, stroking his daughter's head. He supported all his children in realizing their dreams and hoped they could bring positive change to the world. Ibu passed away a few years ago, but her spirit still lived on in this village. Before her death, she officially passed the position of village chief to Leland Brooks. And all the villagers respected and trusted him and were willing to follow him. Some guests have arrived in the village one day. A young villager came to find Leland Brooks, who was now 67 years old, but still full of vitality. What guests they are! Reporters from the United States. They heard the story of our village and want to interview Leland. Brooks was a bit surprised, but then showed a relieved smile. It had been a long time since he had the chance to speak English with someone from home, but he still remembered his native language. Please invite them in quickly. I'll be right there walking to the village entrance. Leland Brooks met the reporters from the United States. The reporters said they had come to interview him about the story of this American village chief in Indonesia. Mr. Brooks, you left the United States 20 years ago and came to this small village. Please share your experiences over these years, the reporter asked. Leland Brooks thought for a moment, then replied, Mystery is simple. I traveled to pursue true happiness and found it here, rather than saying, I saved this village. It's more accurate to say that this village saved me. The reporters seemed moved by his answer, and they walked around marveling at the sight of the village. Calabiru village under Leland Brooks' leadership had now become a place where modern facilities and traditional life coexist in harmony. New schools, modern clinics, impressive cooperative office buildings, and countless happy and fulfilling families filled the entire village. But Mr. Brooks, for a man to marry so many women and become the father of so many children, this is hard to imagine. In the United States, how did you adapt to this life? The reporter cautiously asked. Leland Brooks thought for a moment, then replied, at first it was certainly difficult. However, this was not just about my personal choice. It was about the survival of the entire village. As time went on, we gradually became one big family, and we learned to respect and care for each other. Perhaps this is different from traditional American views, but here I found true happiness and the meaning of life. The reporters were very eager to meet Leland Brooks's large family, and Leland Brooks warmly invited them to his home as guests. His home was actually like a large complex located in the center of the village. Multiple houses were connected together with a spacious courtyard in the middle. The children played freely in the courtyard while Leland Brooks's wives were busy with their respective tasks. This is our home. The children grow up together here, and the adults care for them together. Leland Brooks introduced proudly. Their reporters were amazed and took out their cameras to take pictures. The children looked at the guests from afar with curious eyes, and some shilly hid away. Dad, where did these uncles and aunts come from? Asked Amira, one of Leland Brooks's youngest daughters. She was 7 years old and working hard to learn English. They are from the United States, Ama Maria. That's where Dad was born. Leland Brooks replied in English. Ama Mira, with curious eyes, greeted the reporters in English. Hello, uncles and aunts. My name is Ama Mira. The reporters were touched by Ama Mira's cuteness and greeted her back. Leland Brooks looked at his daughter proudly. The interview lasted the entire day, with the reporters visiting every corner of the village. They wanted to learn more about Leland Brooks's lifestyle and hear the stories of his wives and children. At first, we were skeptical of Mr. Brooks accepting an outsider, and a man at that, was a difficult decision for us. But he brought us hope, and now he is highly respected as our husband, father, and leader. Tia said during her interview, as Leland Brooks's first wife, she held a significant position in the village. We were also jealous of each other at first, but we quickly realized that this was not just a matter of personal feelings, but for the future of our village. Now we're like sisters, caring for and helping each other. Annie also shared her experience. 15-year-old Harrison sat beside her as Leland Brooks's eldest son. Harrison had shown exceptional leadership ability since childhood. I know our family is different from theirs, but that's not a bad thing. We love and respect each other, and we are building Calabiru village together. I also want to be like my father and contribute to the future of this village, hereupon said proud Leland. Brooks looked at his son with pride on the last day of the interview. Reporters suggested taking a village-wide group photo. Leland Brooks and his 25 wives, along with over 50 children, gathered in the village. Square, it was a breathtaking sit-a-very-own smile. Look at the camera. The photographer shouted, and everyone smiled happily at that moment. Leland Brooks realized once again how wonderfully his life had transformed after the reporters left. Leland Brooks walked alone to the highest hill in the village. 20 years ago, when he first came to this village, it was poor, backward, and without hope. Now it had become a land full of vitality and hope. His choice had not only brought new life to this village, but also brought him true happiness. You regret it, Tia? Walked up beside him and asked softly. Leland Brooks smiled and shook his head. I have never regretted it. This is my home, and you are me family. Tia tightly held his hand, and the two of them watched the distant sunset together. Sounds of children playing drifted from the village, and the entire Calabiru village was immersed in an atmosphere of peace and harmony. Our story will now spread widely in the United States, Tia said. Leland Brooks nodded. I don't know how people will view our story, but the most important thing is that we are happy our way. Maybe unconventional, but we love and respect each other and live our lives to the full. After Leland Brooks finished speaking, the sounds of celebration music filled the village. It was Calabiru village's founding anniversary, and all the villagers were gathered together, singing and dancing, celebrating this special day. Let's go, the celebration has begun, Tia said. Leland Brooks nodded, holding hands. He walked towards the village, and the villagers looked at them with admiration and blessings. In the center of the celebration, Leland Brooks was surrounded by children, a happy smile on his face. Chief, let's lift you up, someone shouted, and the villagers responded, lifting Leland Brooks high into the air. This was their traditional way of celebrating the festival, and Leland Brooks had now become the heart of this tradition. 1, 2, 3, everyone shouted together, tossing Leland Brooks high, and the entire village cheered at that moment. Leland Brooks felt like the happiest man in the world. Thank you, Varian. You are the most wonderful gifts in my life, Leland Brooks said emotionally, and the villagers cheered again. The entire Calabiru village was immersed in a festive atmosphere, and the children played happily. Leland Brooks looked at all of this and was once again certain that his initial choice had been absolutely correct. 20 years ago, Leland Brooks, who couldn't find meaning in life among the skyscrapers of New York City, had now found true happiness and the meaning of life in a small village in Indonesia. 20 years ago, he couldn't find meaning in life among the skyscrapers of New York City. Now, in a small village in Indonesia, has found true happiness and the meaning of life. His story is about spread across the United States, inspiring countless people. The happiness of life is often hidden in the most unexpected places, and he, Leland Brooks, found it in Calabiru village of Erkaming. All trials and hardships, and finally finding happiness. This is the story of me in Calabiru village. Leland Brooks said to all the villagers, and his words resonated with everyone. They held hands, sang and danced, celebrating until deep into the night, and the entire village was livelier than ever before. Next morning, Leland Brooks woke up early and strolled alone through the village. Calabiru village, bathed in the morning sunlight, always made him feel a deep sense of peace and happiness. With although 20 years had passed, he was still deeply captivated by the beauty of this land. Dad, a familiar voice called from behind him. Leland Brooks turned around and saw his youngest son, Joe, running towards him. Joe was 5 years old this year, and his favorite thing to do is follow behind Leland Brooks for a walk every morning. Joe, you woke up really early today? Leland Brooks asked with a smile. Joe nodded vigorously. Want to see Calabiru village with Dad, Leland? Brooks's face showed a loving smile, and he bent down and picked Joe up. Father and son walked together on the village paths, welcoming the arrival of a new day. Dad, I love our Calabiru village the most, Joe said innocently. Leland Brooks nodded, his eyes filled with love. Yes, our Calabiru village is the most beautiful place in the world. They continued walking through the village, watching the villagers gradually wake up and begin their busy dayland. Brooks's wives also emerged from their respective homes. Preparing breakfast, the children also got up one after another and ran to the courtyard to play. "Today will also be a beautiful day," Tia said softly as she walked up beside Leland Brooks. Leland Brooks smiled and nodded. "Yes, today, tomorrow, and every day in the future will be a day full of hope and beauty." They stood side by side, looking out at Kalabiru village. Beethas in the morning light, both with happy smiles on their faces, Calabar village welcomed another peaceful and hopeful morning. This is a story of a man it's abandoned a comfortable life and bravely pursued his dreamland. Brooks found true happiness in a small village in Indonesia, and in that process, he changed the destiny of the entire village. His story tells us that true happiness can often be found in the most unexpected places. Having experienced countless trials and hardships, he finally found the truth of happiness. This is the story of Leland Brooks and Kalabiru village. They are now a loving family, respecting and supporting each other, and jointly creating a more beautiful future. Thank you for watching. I hope this story can raise your awareness of social issues. If you feel touched, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. Let's spread positive energy and protect the light together. Thank you.